Howdy, howdy, howdy. We're back. Well, two-thirds of us are back. It's GP and Bags here with another Monday evening pod. We miss you, Nick. Jeff DI. He's still hitting the slopes, I believe. But we're here again, back to back for us, GP. How are you? How have you been? What's new?
I'm good. Not much new. Some crazy stuff that goes on in personal life, but other than that, it's nearly it's past middle of February and it's almost March. And I'm not sure where people are, right, in terms of the markets. It's kind of interesting to see the bifurcation. Lots of people are like, this is the final kind of ascent, and I don't really understand. And then there's the other crowd, which is we'll get a 3 to 5% pullback.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to focus on the bigger picture. I am not doing much more than that else. Like you should have already been positioned. You've had nearly a year and a half to be positioned. So
Yeah,
either you're lightening up or you're holding steady.
we've talked at length about letting your setups go and be positioned for moments where you can do that. And yeah, I think where people are positioned right now, though, I mean, last week's Q's candle, I mean, down 1.5%, right? Not that big of a deal, but I think it was the kind of shakeout. And then you see, RSI and Stoke rolling over. Yeah, we're still above the moving averages, but everybody wants to call a top. And then you see things like Bezos cashing out a bunch of stock and, just, uh,
Gates selling all of
yeah,
them,
Gates basically selling everything, right? I
except
think
his Tesla short, I'm sure.
Well, I think he has some like really high value stuff still, but pretty much they sold a lot, right? And that always makes people uneasy. Um, just talking about Amazon, you know, Bezos is selling into the 170s, which is prior all-time highs, right? So I can understand, I mean, just look at last week's Amazon candle, right? Look at last week's Google candle, right? Look at last week's Microsoft candle. There's some reasons for people to be thinking that they're in a toppy sort of camp, and that's it's never a bad thing to take profit. But at the same time, one thing that I mentioned a lot of coming through the end of 22 into 23 was mixed signals. And I see a lot of mixed signals right now. So I'm glad I'm positioned the way I am. But I'm not looking to add right now, and I'm not necessarily looking to sell everything right now either. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of in a wait and see. Like we haven't started bending any moving averages yet. So we'll see how
And,
it goes.
and I'd argue the other side of that for let's take Amazon for example, right? It absorbed what, nearly $6 or $8 billion of supply from a founder, and it didn't even break. Oh, well, sorry, it did break earnings candle.
Yeah.
Um, and then it got bought back up, right? So the market's absorbing the supply as of now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be an interesting week. We're in a couple weeks period of seasonality is less favorable than coming through January and the start of February. Right, we have the dreaded Fed meetings are coming out, and then it's Fed speakers on tour all week. So, when that happens, you can see some volatility in the market. So, uh, I'm not going to let one day or necessarily one week shake me out of my positions, but I think it's an interesting end of the month as we get ready to close February in the next 2 weeks. Because at the end of the day, we want to see good monthly charts, right? If we see good monthlies and good weeklies and good dailies, that's great. But I want to see how the month ends up. Did I lose you? Oh, I did lose GP. He is joining back. Sorry about that. But hi, Midnight. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Trading 101. What's up, Jason? GP, you back?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, internet just dropped out, so
That's okay.
I'm gonna be on my phone here. It doesn't look like it's
I don't
coming.
know. I don't know where you last heard me, but I said it's basically a historically weak period seasonality wise for the next couple weeks as we end February. We have a host of Fed speakers this week. We have the Fed minutes from January coming out this week. I think we have initial jobless claims this week, right? So there's just a lot of stuff that can sheep you out of your position potentially. So I'm glad I'm positioned the way I am. But at the same time, you got to be cautious and mindful of everything that's brewing out there, I think.
Yeah, and I 100% agree that we need some rest. Just in general, tired. You almost need to pull back to gather more energy to bust higher, right? Like,
Yeah.
so like the people who are like, oh, I'm short this market. It's like, yeah, like you're in a good risk reward position, and then it's yeah, but what's your game plan if the short starts to go against you, right?
Well, I
So
didn't even bring up NVIDIA reports this week, too, right? So, I mean, that to say that thing's probably got to be priced better than perfect, I think is a understatement. Um, could they announce a split? Sure. Could they just blow it away again? Yeah, I mean, Nvidia could absolutely pop another 15%, or it could finally catch a breather. That doesn't mean that it breaks down through 500 or lower, but I mean, who knows what's going to happen on an earnings call when a stock has run for the last 18 months like Nvidia has.
yeah, but not like so. Yes, 18 months, but ultimately after May's, I think it was May's earnings, Nvidia spent 6 months or 7 months sideways, right, before actually breaking out.
Sure.
So it's breaking out here. Oh, actually, I can get back on my um desktop, so I can't. Let me see if I can get back on. Sorry, hold on one
No,
second.
no problem, GB.
It's hard on the phone. I can't see your screen or anything. So
I'm just looking at Nvidia.
yeah, you're gonna have to let me in.
Uh,
Perfect.
Knock 3 times and say the secret password.
Done.
Bags.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, that switched worked pretty well. Yeah, so what I'm saying is NVIDIA took 6 months to break out, right? It consolidated a doubling of revenue from quarter to quarter for 6 months while they accumulated.
Yeah.
That's a pretty long consolidation, right? It wasn't until January 1st, the week of January 1st, that it actually broke out. Could it be the final leg? Yeah. But something tells me that, and that something is actually, I know people are talking about SMCI being Dell or HP or whatever,
Hmm.
but outside of that, SMCI just came in 3 weeks ago and guided for double their revenue for the year. So if SMCI, I don't have a moat, I don't have any kind of proprietary company going bananas and guiding up 100%, maybe NVIDIA earnings comes in higher than expected. And their expectations are high. But for them to continue their run, it has to come in higher than expected by a landslide, right?
For sure.
So I think
For sure. That's all I was saying. It has to be priced better than perfect.
yeah, absolutely. I don't disagree with you. I just like it's if you take a look at the last 18 months, yes, it's been phenomenal movement. But in that 18 months, we've spent basically from October 2022 all the way until January 23, where we broke out. And then we got to May 2023, and then spent pretty much sideways until January 2024, and we broke out. And it's got a doji candle. There's a lot of accumulation in this. I earnings typically for NVIDIA are unless it's a surprise like May was, they're typically non-events, right? The premium that's priced into the most likely the market makers will win, right?
Yeah.
The IV is sitting, I think, close to 140%. So it's anticipating a big move, and usually on those things, unless it surprises the upside, they usually tend to lose on both ends, puts and calls. So I would wait to see what happens after, but I'm not too worried at the moment. We'll see what the reaction is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I'm expecting NVIDIA to fall off the planet Earth here. That's not at all where I'm going with this. But again, yeah, we had that period of consolidation. Yeah, we could chop, right, and enter another stage of consolidation. It would surprise me to see 10 or 15% higher post earnings, or the other way on a drop. And I just I just think, yeah, while SMCI and ARM have exploded over the last 2 or 3 weeks, in NVIDIA set this shit, to start, right? I mean,
Yeah.
NVIDIA started the party. So is it going to be the first to leave the party, or is the party going to keep going? I don't know. And no matter which direction, up, down, or sideways, it's not going to really surprise me, because at this point with NVIDIA, if you are anything less than ready for everything or anything, you haven't been paying attention.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I think the other part of that, like I think I just saw a news headline today saying that Google's going to invest $2 billion in Spain, right, to build out this AI infrastructure. And so they're still spending as they're cutting back on everything else, they're still spending a fair bit of money on this stuff. So it could potentially go. I personally like the setup in AMD over NVIDIA, right? AMD.
Do tell.
It's a beautiful consolidation, right?
Yeah.
It's 5 weeks tight, or semi tight,
Above all-time
and
highs.
above all time highs, and 4 weeks in a row that wick is insane. Those wicks are insane, right? So technical side says every time we get below prior all time highs, buyers are stepping in. So unless it breaks down off of NVIDIA, like a miss or whatever,
Yeah.
AMD is poised to move higher, right?
Yeah. I love it. I'm long Lisa and AMD all day. So I love it. I think this is one of the better looking charts. I mean, when we look at the semis as a whole, I mean, it's hard to say that's a bad look, right? But it's not what we've seen from this one or that one. And I don't think that's necessarily an indictment on the entire SMH, but it has definitely been a monster
Yeah, and SMCI ultimately, I think, still put in like a 8 to 10% week higher, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
fine, Friday was a dump fest, but and it could be the start of something bigger, but ultimately it held the 9 day moving average and put in 8 to 10% higher for the week. So, um, if you're short-term trader, you may get some great advantages here to trade both sides because technically volatility picks up at the top end and the bottom end of the ranges. So it's definitely something to watch because that was one hell of a volatile candle. But so far, technically, it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, tons of I mean, just tons of volume pouring in.
Yeah.
Whether it's SMCI or ARM, ARM just absolutely gobsmacked everything. I think SMCI has an additional couple weeks on what ARM's done. But we know NVIDIA was about to buy ARM. They're still doing business with ARM. Do we really expect NVIDIA's um, quarter to be that bad if SMCI and ARM are saying they're good? I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be not one I want to be involved in, but I want to see the reaction because it obviously sets a tone for a lot of other things.
Well, and
Um, and so like that's
prior. I'm sorry,
what's that?
GP. Go ahead. No, go
No,
ahead.
no. I think the arm holding above it keeps consolidating and volume coming in above the earnings candle. AMD actually had a guide down on earnings, so that's the one that's the most intriguing. I said it already, but it's the most intriguing that it continues to hold even though it's guided down, right? So um, maybe it's something that we don't know yet, and it'll become public soon. Maybe it's waiting for NVIDIA earnings. I don't know, but it's definitely the one I'm watching the most. Right,
Randy
but it's
reminded
not
Randy reminded us of Global Foundries. Said should pop. So we'll see. When's their earnings? Oh, it's not for 77 more days. So a lot of time left in that.
soon.
Um, I was going to say though, the AI train has definitely bolstered all the chip stocks, and I miss I don't miss the case of all these crypto cards that they gotta sell. Um, that was hamstringing everything of miners need graphics cards for crypto. But crypto's been popping. I mean, Bitcoin's above 50,000 now. Last week when we talked, we were in the $48,000 range. So again, as we've talked about a long time on just crypto as a whole, it's risk on, and you know, chips continue to lead. It's hard for me to get too negative and too short sighted on positions that I want to hold for the long haul.
Yeah, it's and then if we like I've started looking at like obviously small caps been on my radar and looking at the correlation between the dollar and small caps and then rates and small caps and then small like that's the candle that small caps put in and everyone's bearish and I'm like holy shit, sorry, pardon the French, but holy shit, like what if that was like that's a green candle on heavier volume and closing higher than CPA on hot inflation, and everyone is bearish small cap, or
Yeah,
a lot of people are bearish small caps, and I'm like, dude, you're sitting at the top of the range, highest close in almost 2 years, and you're bearish here. Like,
yep.
I'm not sure what is honestly going on, and I don't really care. I'll follow charts.
Yep.
I'll pay attention to that, and your correlations can eat a bag of, you know what I mean? So
Uh,
it's
highest close for the IWM on the weekly since the week of March 28, 2022. So,
yeah,
um, you know, you
on
can,
heavier volume,
yeah.
and it closed above the hot inflation prints, right? Two
So,
back-to-back hot inflation prints, and the small caps did not sell off in a way that was meaningful, right? And every other time we have. So it's something to pay attention to. Maybe it sells off this week, and
I have egg on my face and I'm good with that. But as of now, if price is what pays, those correlations don't matter.
Well, we know anything's possible, right? I mean, we one thing that I went through, I went through a ton of charts this week, longer chart storm than I normally do for my group. And I I don't know. I think it's always the best idea to try to be prepared for possibilities, things that may come, right? But what you want to see is your original thesis to bear out, but still be prepared. And I don't necessarily, out of all of them, I think IWM looks, all of the indices, IWM looks the best. I think it looks better than the Qs right now. I think it looks better than SPY right now, um, because there's kind of got the slingshot in effect once it releases from this range. How much higher is it going to pop, right? It's similar to the what's going to outperform that you did with me back in the summer, right? Is it going to be Intel or is it going to be AMD? And of course, I laughed at you, but the point being was like, well, maybe Intel has more to run right now, it has more upside than AMD does, and for a little while that was the case, and that could be the case right now for IWM too.
Yeah. The correlations ultimately come in that Intel is a dying company, right? So, and they continue to fumble the ball continuously, and they're holding on to stuff. But at the time, it worked.
Yeah, no, the point being was at the time that you made that statement, you saw a greater potential reward short term in Intel than AMD, and you were right. Now, intermediate to longer term, that's probably not the case, but in that period of time, yes, just like
Yeah,
right here,
yeah, and that's
IWM set up to make a bigger run in the short term than either SPY or the Qs, in my opinion.
yeah, and so like along with IWM, right? I did some chart. I did a lot of chart storms that I don't normally do in a space that I don't normally follow in the same capacity that I do Qs, because most of my companies that I trade on a day-to-day basis are sitting in the Qs, right? But got to lend your ears to where the money is flowing, right? So, and the money is flowing into the small caps here, in my opinion, of course. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, doesn't matter. But like, so do you remember? So if you can pull up the Qs chart on a monthly basis there
Absolutely.
and put in the 9 SMA.
The 9 is the blue line.
Yeah. So in October, I was like, why is everyone so insanely bearish as we test the rising 9 SMA for the first time? And then what we've done to,
Recapturing it.
huh?
Since recapturing it.
Yeah, since recapturing it. It's the first test. It's a flag at prior all-time highs, and we're testing it. I'm not sure why everyone is insanely bearish, and we've seen what the Qs have done in 4 months, right? Like nonstop lockout rally. We talked about this back in November. And so this then brings up, like, now switch the symbol to KRE, which is regional banks. And regional banks not as good looking as the Qs of when they were hitting the 9 SMA on monthly, but and we still have 2 weeks left, so this can ultimately fail too. But I'm watching this, right, because it's on a weekly basis. That big red candle right there, where we just dropped off in March of 2022, 23. That, if you go on a weekly basis, we actually closed above that level last week, right? So that low was 48.44, and we closed at 48.71. So in this consolidation period here, we tried to break down. We did not, and so far it's becoming a false breakdown. So, and the false breakdown is sitting at this major breakdown level. So it's something to watch for me here, because if regional banks participate, and we already saw the news that
Capital One is looking to buy Discover, right? So you're seeing good consolidative stuff, and I think at a healthy premium too. Who the hell pays 30% extra for a bank? But Capital One is. They're obviously seeing value there, right? So I'm liking a lot of what I'm seeing. Yet everything I'm seeing on FinTwit, not everything, lots of things. People are bearish. People are, and that's okay. Like I said, I could be wrong. I'm not arguing that, but so far everything's constructive in the space that it needs to be constructive.
Well, there's a couple things I think that's at play here. One is we often we might say that price is our number one indicator, but we'll look at everything else to try to tell us what price should be. And two, I still think we have a lot of miserable bear syndrome out there. From my miserable bear theory, right? They've missed a lot of this run up, and now they want lower prices, which they likely will not buy. So I think there's a combination of things why people are praying for the downfall of the market. It's also a presidential election year. I don't think it's in anyone's best interest to see all of a sudden the economy fall off the cliff, or I shouldn't say the economy, the stock market fall
But
off.
it has, right? Didn't 2008, wasn't that year where Obama got elected, 2008?
Well, it started in 08 and 09, right? Like with
Yeah.
the great financial crisis. But that wasn't by anyone's doing other than the housing market, right? And these credit default swaps.
Yeah.
So what I mean by saying, and there's the fall off right there, right? So Obama takes office right here in 09, right?
And that's the launch of QE, right? That double bottom is the launch of QE.
But what I'm saying is no one in government artificially manufactured this over this time period to make that waterfall happen.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
But election years are no guarantees, right? Like that's all. I guess that's all I'll say.
well, I mean, if we look up until, well, I guess we had that swoon at the beginning of the year, then you come up and then down. So that's kind of a bear flagish there.
Dude, we were down a ton on Trump's presidential election, and we randomly just took off too. So I I'm always like those correlations are always interesting to see, but they don't always have to be there, but it's probabilities, right?
Yeah. So here was the run up, obviously 2020, and then you get the election day pull in through here and right back up.
Yeah. And there are some really disappointing candles last week. I'm not going to argue that,
For real.
right? So I think Shop is the one that really, after this long of a base,
Whoa, what is this?
after
Total,
finally reclaiming the weekly 200 SMA, it sells off pretty hard on pretty decent earnings, right? So, but it
looks
held
like
the break. What's that?
below last week's low, it's a false breakout.
Yeah, yeah. So it's tough to keep on. Obviously, Microsoft wasn't the greatest of candles, but it also didn't break last week's low.
No.
Um, right?
Shop
So
did. There's a few that are like Shop though that really like oh shitted everyone, I think.
Roku took a dump, right?
Well, it had
And Roku
earnings though.
should, and absolutely Roku should. They've been promising profitability for I think now 3 quarters, and they didn't become profitable. So people are going to take profits and move on. It's like, dude, this environment is a different monetary regime. People have options with their money. So if you're not going to prioritize getting profitable ASAP, you're going to get sold. It's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And Roku shot the bet, and deservedly so, gets to be sold. And the question is now, will it get bought?
that now everyone's like, oh, well, they're out. Now they actually go profitable. And now you see a monster run up. But ultimately, the price action deserves what it got, right? Like you don't come to the party's done.
Right. Hey, I just want to shout out everybody who's watching today. We really appreciate everybody tuning in. GP, I'm gonna jump on one that I know that we've both liked before, but to me doesn't have the best setup. FSLR looks like a little bit of a inverted cup and handle to me, a little upside down cup and handle, maybe. And if so, that's not going to be promising here. But I'm curious on your take.
Um, if you expand out to the monthly, right? I think what you're seeing is quite a few wicks off that like
Mhm.
140 area, right?
Mhm.
This is, a lot of people talk about price doesn't have memory past a couple of years, and yet you're looking at this chart and it's struggling with the 2011 highs here, right? Or that little base here. So I don't mind it personally. I think it's consolidate. It doesn't, it's one of those low floaters. There's still a ton of accumulation on quarterly, on monthly, on weekly charts that I'm still pretty confident that it's going to be higher a year from now. What it does in the next few weeks or over the next month, I don't really care too much,
Yeah, I mean, seeing the inverted cup and handle is more of just a shorter term thing, right?
Yeah.
That it could give back some points here. Not
Yeah,
that
and it
not
can
that
get to
it's
one.
going bankrupt tomorrow or anything. That's not the point of it. It's just trying to predict what might happen. And as you can see, it's got declining volume too. So I don't know. It's one of those that I really like it, but do you want to take a stab at it here? I don't think I do.
So I'm long from I think mid 140s, and it's doing okay.
Yeah.
It's been meandering around for sure. Uh, I I like the if you um yeah, it's not the greatest of charts. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I like the monthly. I like how it's wicking off that 140 level. As if you look at the cup and handle, inverted cup and handle, there was one in May of 2022 as well, right? That all those wicks there
Yeah.
at that orange line,
Yeah.
right? So though yeah, I like what it's doing so far. Um, it's one of the best in the bunch. Also, see, I think I couple this with the other names in the space, and Phase is one of them that is, if you're going to, yeah, that looks like it's bottomed. And the reaction that it had to those terrible earnings was kind of like impressive to me. I'm like, wow, those earnings are terrible. And it just got bought up. It just got bought up. So, and every other moment over the last 12 months, terrible earnings have equated to terrible reactions.
Little
And this
pickup
time
in
doesn't.
volume there too.
Yeah, with the volume too. And so that's something to pay attention to, because if the space is starting to bottom, then FSLR doesn't necessarily, it may look not great and it could be the weakest in the bunch, but I don't think they have any debt. I think they're poised to do better than all of them, but it doesn't have the crazy volatility movements like Enphase or Run or Sedge or whatever.
Sideways is a direction too.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So I thought that was the in phase candle is what really kind of solidified that FSLR will be okay, but it doesn't look like a great chart, yes.
Let's hit some of the folks here. Tiger Johnson says he likes Geo. A lot of people talking about Geo.
Yeah, and we've talked about it too. It
Yep.
looked great. Still does.
Uh, ENTG for Randy. Integris. I mean, I'm not mad about it. it ran really hard last week, but 2 weeks in a row, 6% week and a 7.7% week. Pretty strong, Randy.
Yeah. And then you have coin.
Oh, you know I love me some coin.
Yeah. Right? Like that's the highest close in how long?
Since
Nearly 2 years?
March 28th, 2022. Same as IWM.
No.
Same date. Um,
And then you have disappointing
tomorrow?
candles like Twilio. Twilio is terrible.
Oh my gosh. What a oh man, just
Yeah, well,
not
but
a that's
this is what we were
pain.
just talking about is like you have to show me that you're actually focusing on getting your earnings and your profitability and your growth back. And Twilio just continues to fumble the
Just
ball.
pain. Just pain. And they got rid of their CEO. They thought that was going to cure everything. No, it's just pain. There's just pain right there. Mike Jones, Mara, miners are running.
Yeah. Melly looks great. Melly, nice little flag with a bunch of wicks.
You know, talking about bottoms, and you know I've been on my China kick here lately, but not a China, but C Limited. Kind of looks like it's trying to do its bottom thing too.
Yeah.
And we can talk
And then you
about
have some energy names that just absolutely tore it apart. Look at Fang.
Diamondback, the real thing. I'm not gonna lie, energy's kind of popping right now.
Some of it is, not all of it, right? So
I know,
Fang,
but coming
Fang,
from
huge
me,
move.
coming from me, right? Like this is not the worst. There are much worse looking charts out there than this one on the XLE.
Oh yeah.
There are worse looking charts, and this is just sounds dirty to say it, but worse than crude right now.
Yeah.
There's CL1. I mean, there's just worse charts out there than these. That doesn't mean that I'm going to go buy all the crude, but it doesn't look bad.
Nope. And
What
then
is
you have
SOUN?
yeah, that
Sound
was based
hell.
off the NVIDIA candle, right? Their
Holy
investment.
cow.
So NVIDIA filed its first, they become a hedge fund, by the way, too, not just AI fund. So they invested in some of these companies, and Soon was one of them.
Soundhound. The Nest wants PayPal, and I don't know what to tell you about PayPal other than
Show me the money, and they're not.
like everybody was so I even warned everybody was so geeked up about this breakout, and I was like, you got to be careful. It hasn't confirmed anything yet, and sure enough, it's back down into the 50s. I don't like it. I've said over and over that it doesn't have a moat. It doesn't have anything that anyone wants that can't get elsewhere. I know they're trying to make the PayPal app a super app. Well, good luck. Everybody's wants a super app, the app for everything. So we'll see. I mean, we can talk about Block too, SQ. I mean, it doesn't look
Much
great
better
either.
than PayPal,
It
but
looks
yeah.
better than PayPal, but it doesn't look great.
No, but they have the Bitcoin investment, so that helps them more than PayPal.
You can get crypto on PayPal.
No, they invested in Bitcoin, I think,
Oh, gotcha.
on their balance sheet.
Understood. Yep.
And so, like, then we talk about Netflix. How long have we been talking about this?
Basically since the second podcast.
Yeah. And
So somewhere
so
up here.
it is the highest close since
Somewhere up here.
January 2022, right? And we talked about the upcoming potential double breakdown, right? That was, I think it was January 16th was that call, 2022, right before earnings, and we kind of nailed the Netflix breakdown. And so what's Netflix doing here? you're putting in a 3-week tight and it went higher. And the highest close since January 2022. One, to me, this name trades like crap most of the time, except for earnings. But the general direction is people are still buying this stuff. And with the introduction of, what was it, Sora by OpenAI, how is this not a benefit to Netflix overall, right? So you have, here's your conflicting signal. My conflicting signal is you have Netflix, which is my bull market leader, starting to kind of break out here. And then on the other side, you have Apple, which is looking like it wants to break down.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think Apple is going to break down personally. But it's not acting like the market leader it's been.
So speaking of all the FinTwat out there, this has been a name that has been heavily, I'll say, picked on this past week. And rightfully so. I mean, it's given back, and you're used to seeing nice runs in Apple. It's kind of gone sideways for a while. I think people are, I don't think Apple's out of favor as much as people's expectation of how Apple should move is probably out of favor. This is not, SMCI. This is not ARM. And the wider the base, the higher out in space. So this is just putting in a giant base for that run to happen, and then it's going to be another lockout rally in Apple. And what was everybody going to do? They're going to bitch and moan. Apple's too expensive.
Yeah, and it's range bound until it's not, right?
Yep, absolutely. Wheat. We got another chart. Wheat. We looked at wheat last week, I think. Tiger. Oh, we did look at it last week, and it went down 6.4%.
Yeah, there's no reason to be anything in this chart.
Yeah,
you need to delete it from your watch list.
Here's a good one.
And look, and put a alert in at 483.
Here's a good one. Uber.
Yeah.
Just kind of textbook breakout. You love to see it.
Lyft with it. Lyft had a monster week.
Yeah, they did.
Look at that volume.
37%. Congrats, Longs, especially if you were buying this trough here. Excellent. Excellent. Yep. VKTX. What is this?
Biotech.
Lust. Viking Therapeutics. Wow. That's been on one right there. I kind of look at it like hold that and you're good.
Yep.
Apple to
we're gonna talk about Mickey.
No, I don't think Apple to all-time. Well, yeah, I mean Apple's not that far away from all-time highs. It's $200. That's not that big of a move here in the grand scheme of things. So, yeah, if the market is favorable, sure, Apple can get above 200. That's not highs 199.62. Absolutely, it can hit 200. Tesla, we got to talk about Tesla. And you said Mickey. We'll get Mickey next, GP.
Yep.
Nothing's changed in Tesla land, really. It looks improved. GP liked it more last week. Coming into the week, it closed 3% higher. So you have to feel emboldened on your liking of it still, right, GP?
Yeah, and Tesla is one of those few names that can do whatever it wants, regardless of what the indices are doing, right?
To some extent, to a large extent. Yeah, to a large extent.
I think to a large extent it has for a long time. So It can also follow the markets down. I'm not saying
Yep.
it won't, but
Right.
it can also buck almost any trend. So it's got nice solid 3 weeks here. It's basically kind of retesting the flag consolidation area from early 2023. It's not going anywhere until it does start going somewhere.
I mean, I think
It reclaimed the 5 week moving average first time in 7 weeks.
we
Stuff
gotta
that
see 250, 260, right? Like we gotta eventually test that downtrend line.
yep.
So before that though, you have this sort of pivot around two teens, wherever you want to put it.
It reclaimed sorry. It reclaimed the quarterly low, 194.07. It's
Yep.
right. It reclaimed the quarterly low. On the monthly, this is now the third time we've broken the 50-month moving average, and the other two times we reclaimed it by the next month. So that's kind of what you'll want to see over the next couple of weeks, right? As February comes to an end, to see if it can do the same kind of false breakdown. You do have some of the longer term moving averages rolling over, so that's always a concern. You also have lower highs since November 2021. So
Mhm.
you need to see that change as well. There's a lot of stuff that Tesla has to do to
Yeah.
feel like to be in a trend that's not this. So
All right, Mickey. It's a pretty clean break.
it's a pretty clean break. You had your entire second week candle inside the wick of the last week. This to me has potential to the 130, 140 area here. I like it. There's volume coming in down here quite a bit. And this has just been a clean technical trader ever since it kind of bottomed.
Yeah. Hopefully that continues. I know a lot of folks are long the name. I have no position, but yeah, it looks good. I was on the 92 train. You got to get it out of 92, and it did quick, fast, in a hurry. It didn't wait.
It did not.
She took off,
And
or he
then
took off, whatever.
for every disappointing candle, there's a beautiful candle. And for the shop disappointing candle, there's the app candle.
App
Beautiful, just
loving
beautiful.
another almost 30%. Wow.
Just a beautiful breakout of a base and tons of volume. Look at that volume that's onto the buy side. So the accumulation in this suggests that it has a lot more to go, and their earnings were actually fantastic, right? So, just something to pay attention to. This is not a free money environment, so not everything is going to rise, but the ones that do come to the party, the ones that do show up, tend to be rewarded more heavily.
For real.
Yep,
Todd asked
QPD.
about WW Weight Watchers.
Why do we keep talking about
WW.
this one?
I don't know.
What's the love with
Yeah,
the stock?
I don't, because it's $4 maybe.
Maybe, but this stock has been in a perpetual downtrend since 2018. And they haven't been able to show anything otherwise. There's a decent amount of green volume last year.
I don't understand the infatuation with it either, but I'm guessing Todd is long. And if so, probably not a place I would want to be, but right here. I mean, if I'm in it right now, still in it, I'm probably going to make sure that it holds this range, and I'd probably have like a stop out under that candle right there, which is like 328.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Oh, you're
Oh,
short.
he's short.
Good. Then that's why you keep talking about it.
Yeah. Okay. Great, Todd. Sorry. He's short from the 13s. Congratulations.
Yeah, right into bankruptcy.
Yeah. I mean, why be greedy? You just had another big 10% down week last week. Like, why be greedy?
Yeah, it could be setting up a double bottom, right, at this high volume candle.
Yeah.
So what I will say is it did not make that's an inverted hammer on the month at the prior month. So
Yeah, I mean, if you want to get cute, you can play it down another point or two. But like, if you've been in from the 13s, why? Right? Like
yeah,
you've juiced most of that lemon there. So good job.
yeah. And so like
McDonald's,
yeah,
McD.
but not just McDonald's, right? So let's just talk about this for a second, right? Like we've been talking about AI and how AI has bubble, blah, 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 right? Yet I don't see anyone, and I did a thread last week about this, about fast food and not just McDonald's. Look at Wing, look at Chipotle, look at Texas Roadhouse, look at Shack. Like go down the list. Like these are all breaking out to all-time highs and then some, right? Except for Shack. Shack was an overpriced IPO. But Shaq had a big breakout here. CMG, yeah. Go to Wing. Breakout. Now go to Texas Roadhouse, TXRH.
First watch.
Bang, right? Like, look at Quasar, QSR. So is AI magically helping these names, right? Like these are all sitting close to all-time highs.
AI will help them
Yeah, I
eventually.
know, but AI will help everyone, but I love it. Then the ultimate fast food stock selling hot dogs at $1.50, Costco.
Wendy's is actually bad. I looked at Wendy's today, and Wendy's has been down.
Yeah, not everyone.
Yeah. Todd says, why no one talking about GLW? Corning. I don't know. Because there's thousands of tickers, maybe. Todd, I'm not trying to be smart, but it's hard to. I've got a watch list of almost 200 stocks, and I can't catch them all.
Yeah, mine's like 600. So.
Well, I pared it down. 200. I felt like 200 was doing something.
And even like the 600 I go through on a regular basis, right? So
I don't know if you're long or short, Todd, since I know you like to play both sides of that. Not terrible, but I think there's better longs out there. Uh, with the Stoke already turning over, I mean, it might be might get a couple points on it to the short side. I don't know. What's funny, Rachel? What do you LOL at me for? Because I'm just your charming podcast host with my faithful friend and companion, GP. Calls. What? Oh, he's asking about calls on Corning. Yeah, I mean it's you've got this candle there. It's all above the moving averages. Like I don't think it's a bad looking chart to the upside, but I think there's better out there. Is all I'm saying. Option activity on June 31, $33. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, that basically take out the 2 weeks ago high candle, high wick there. So yeah, yeah. Anybody else got a chart? I have 200 stocks. Yeah, that's right, Rachel. How could I miss it?
Can we talk about Toyota?
I would love to.
TM.
We can talk about Honda too if you want.
Oh, now that's a beautiful chart.
Yeah, it looks really good.
In case you were thinking
Was
that
this an
it's gonna
earnings
be,
candle?
I don't even know. I don't even follow it. I just saw the chart and I was like, now that's interesting.
Let's see. Events, earnings. It was an earnings candle.
Yeah.
I saw
So,
that volume. I was like, it had to be earnings.
and so the other one that I've been in a couple of weeks is what I like as a great risk to reward is PFE, Pfizer. This is not I'm gonna trade it for what, 4 days or 4 weeks. This is like a long-term potential position here.
Carving a bottom.
Yep. It's 6% dividend. I like it. I like it as long as it holds that 26.43 on a weekly closing basis. I see no reason to sell it. What do you think?
Yeah, I would probably use that uptrend line that I just drew right there as what I'd want to see it hold, but I'd probably give it to like 26.
Yeah.
But I don't disagree with your 26.43. I completely see where you're getting that from.
It's the COVID lows.
Yeah.
And so we've retested them here and we're trying to carve out of some more significant bottom. Will it be V shape? No, but I think it's a good hold here.
Yeah.
And if it breaks down, you lose what? $1 or something? It's not the end of the world. That's why I say the risk reward is pretty good.
And look at that stochastic and RSI. Like that's pretty much, you don't get much more flat line than that.
Yeah.
Actually, RSI is actually trying to bounce a little bit.
Yeah, I like it here, so
Yeah, I can see why you would.
yeah.
Jason asked about Abbott. ABT.
It's gotta go. It's just not going though. It's
Yeah,
gotta go.
it's above all the moving averages. All of
This
them are
is
pointing higher.
yeah. This is
Yeah,
the story of so many charts, right? They're
gotta
just
go.
stuck in these bases.
It's gotta go.
And yeah.
IDXX, IDEX Laboratories. I mean, that's mini Abbott. It's Abbott, right? Like it's almost the same chart. It's almost the same chart. See it? Almost the same. LYV, Live Nation. You brought this up before, Randy. Look at that. That's almost the same chart too. We're wedging. Got a wedgie there. Snow for Rachel. GP, what do you think about snow?
People love it. I don't understand it. It's one of those
Okay.
IPO names that I just don't want to be a part of. I hope it goes for all of you. But IPOs can take a long time.
Well,
Just ask Randy about GFS.
I mean, up here, wasn't it like the most expensive stock in stock market history?
Yeah.
So you're reaching those points again. Um, MMM. We get 3M all the time. Thanks, Tiger. Still hasn't hit GP's buy. I mean, you're probably right, Tiger. There's probably not much more downside, but there's still some downside at risk here. You've got all the moving averages rolling over. we know that this is not a bottom, right? We know that 90 is not a bottom. So see if it comes back into 87, right?
Why? My question is always why, right?
We
Like,
like
is
to
this
go on fishing expeditions,
no, the
GP.
question is like, why do you want to, is this a long-term play for like 5 years out, 10 years out? Because it's hard to answer those questions without knowing your time frame, right? So is MMM here good in terms of long-term approach? Potentially. It's got better risk reward down here than it did at 200.
For sure.
But it's also not showing buyers stepping in, which is my biggest concern, right? And so far, what is that? The lowest monthly close or close to it?
As of right now, we are 90.95. Yeah, we're close to it.
Yeah. And so I would expect buyers to be stepping in here. Instead, they sold the hell out of that candle.
Well,
Weekly candle.
yeah, they had that pop and then, yeah.
Yeah, there's just better names to be looking at. It's not showing, like, it's kind of like PayPal. It's not showing that anyone's even interested here.
I wrote a blog post about how much pain you're willing to take. And some of these names, um, you shouldn't be willing to take a lot of pain, or I wouldn't be willing to take a lot of pain. Some of them, right? Like if it comes back to if the business as a whole hasn't changed and everything, if it's just something mechanically in the market that's dragging it down, then that's an artificial thing, right? What's going to bolster 3M back to 200? I have no clue. Um, so you just got to ask yourself: is it a trade? Is it too much pain to bear? I can't answer those questions for you.
And I think the biggest thing is if you're looking at the trailing 12-month revenue, it's still declining.
So that's not positive.
Yeah. Right. So you're looking at something that has negative growth ultimately, and the peak revenue quarterly was September 2021. When did the chart top out?
June 21. Oh,
Yeah.
that's 28.
Yeah.
But yeah, June 21.
Yeah. So yeah, I just there's no this feels like it's just gonna frustrate you.
I mean,
And
I
then
get
when
it. I'm a month into China, right? So
yeah.
like I get it. We all like a fishing expedition. We like to try to find a bottom that we can buy and see massive gains run up. But the majority of the time, I am best suited to buy strength. Strength begets strength. There you go. And we'll
Yeah.
end the podcast with that. Hey, thanks everybody tuning in and joining. We had a nice little turnout tonight, GP. It was great to see everybody. Rachel,
Yeah.
Tiger, Jason, Todd, Randy,
Randy,
of course. Randy brought the chips and nuts for everybody.
Mike Jones,
Mike Jones.
the Nest. We had a decent turnout. Hopefully we can
Yeah,
continue to
yeah,
build.
yeah. We'll be back next week, and Nick is scheduled to join us next week. He'll be off the family vacation, hopefully.
Yeah.
Not that we don't want him to enjoy himself, but we miss him. We love getting Nick's take. So we'll be back next Monday with that. And hey, my brother, I appreciate you doing this yet again with me.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you